have the conversation around this man, Alexander Isak. Let's get this out there and in the topic of conversation. Because yesterday on Top Table Talk, I brought you just brought these up to you boys in the panel with regards to what Keith Downey had said, and this obviously sparked a reaction the next day. I think he said this on Monday. Then the reaction on Tuesday was this. So David Ornstein came out and said that Alexander Isak's adamant he's not going to play for the club again, even if the window closes and he's still at Newcastle United. He considers his Newcastle career over and has no wish to reintegrate. Something on Monday that was touted that could potentially happen if he wasn't to get his move. Ben Jacobs mentioned about this because Ben Jacobs is the one that said about the reintegration process. He did mention that if Liverpool say to Isak, it's impossible for them to do this deal in this summer window, he said that at that point he will reintegrate into Newcastle United's team. That was what was said on Monday. He's then talked about it in a bit more detail with regards to that and mentions that Newcastle want clarity this week with the ownership now involved in several Isak-specific meetings. Luke Edwards has reined in with his opinion. He's saying, based on what David Ornstein has said, that he made these intentions clear days ago. This is not new information. This is why he's not training or playing with the group. He also has not said a thing publicly about his intentions and not handed in an official transfer request, something which now has become more of a topic about this transfer request because Luke had raised this point and made it. Boys, just with that, what are your thoughts on that, just on what we've just said right there about Alexander Isak? What are your thoughts on his refusal to play for the club again, this reinstated situation where he's saying he's going to refuse to reinstate himself back into the squad and in the team? Well, what do you make of those comments that came out from David Ornstein yesterday? Because we haven't had an opportunity to have a conversation on this.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to say what I really think on air. But like I see as well. No. It'd be pretty bad. I'm seeing Jordan and Liam putting up tweets as well. Today again, he's not training. He's training alone again. So there's no sign of him backing down, is there? And it is an absolute disgrace that he won't. He's come out and saying the intermediaries are putting it out in the media that he's not going to play for Newcastle ever again, even if it goes past the transfer deadline day and he's stuck, if you want to put it that way. It would be awful to be stuck in Newcastle, wouldn't it? He's in a World Cup year. He's going to ride the bench and not play, and then come to January and go through all this again. And what I really think now that what needs to happen is I still don't want to sell to Liverpool, and Liverpool don't want to pay the 150 million. They'd rather tap him up before the summer and then try and get him on the cheap. So I want him to be sold to Europe. If it can be sold somewhere in Europe, send them on loan somewhere for a year with the option to buy, and then allow us to go out and get a striker. Then I know there's limited strikers left, are very little, but we need maybe we just need to have a contingency plan that we have two strikers. Not an Isak replacement, just two strikers, because we need two strikers no matter what. They're going to play and they want to play for Newcastle. I'd even love to see him being sent off to on loan to Saudi or something, club in Saudi. But look, I'll say no more on him. I'm just sick of the saga now as well. I as I said, like in the last week of my attitude towards him has gone sour, because I really hope that he would but just back down on this, and there was some way around it, but there's no way around it now. I don't think there's any way back for him in Newcastle. I don't think we're ever going to see him playing in black and white again.
Chris, we obviously knew when it came out that he wanted to leave, that he wanted to obviously leave the club, go to Liverpool. We knew that. We knew he wasn't going to be around forever. Are you surprised with the levels that he's gone to? With the depths of the lows that he's stooped to try and force his way out? Are you surprised by it, Alexander Isak?
Yeah, I'm surprised, disappointed, pissed off. Yeah, I think he will look back on this and regret it. Do you know what? I watched Geordie Journo's friend of the channel, Liam, Dom, and Jordan. I watched a video that they did yesterday, and Liam gave a very passionate response as to how he felt about Alexander Isak and what he would do with Alexander Isak. And do you know what? I found myself agreeing with him. If you haven't watched it, make sure you do. Really, really good video from yesterday. But yeah, for me, it's just, do you know what? I'm on it. I said to my wife Lisa, I think it was last week. I said it felt like there'd been a death in the family, and I know that sounds really dramatic, but like I was just so like disheartened and disappointed and upset and angry and frustrated and annoyed and loads of different emotions. Some people will say that it's the agent to blame. Some people say he's been misadvised, but ultimately, I still believe that the player, people keep talking about it, player power. The player has the power, and the player is a grown man. He can make his own decisions. I think he's made his. He's tainted his achievements at Newcastle. I don't think he'll ever be viewed the same whether he stays or goes, and I think that it's such a shame because this could all have been done behind closed doors. It would still have hurt when he left. It would still be disappointing for us as fans, but we wouldn't have had this media circus. He's made the whole summer about him, and that's what's really annoyed me more than anything, because it's not about one player, it's about the club. It's about next season. It's about Champions League. It's about enjoying the fact that, we're current holders of the Carabao Cup. It's not about Alexander Isak. And this whole summer has been made about Alexander Isak. And I know that the intention from the likes of Liverpool, the intention from the media, the intention from Alexander Isak and his camp was probably to make us feel this way, make us feel like we've got to sell him. And in my heart, I want him to go. I want him out. I don't want him here anymore. But then I still have this nagging feeling in my head where I think, I'm sorry for the French, fuck you. You're not going anywhere. You're going to be made. I want to see him stew. I want to see him uncomfortable. I want him. I know I won't physically see it, even though I'd love to. I'd love to see him walk back into training on the 1st of Sorry. I'd love to see that. I'd love it. I'd love to see him not go to Liverpool and then be able to say to all the Liverpool fans, told you he wasn't going anywhere. But then my heart is saying, yeah, but do you know what? The money that we get for him, it would transform the club. We can move on from him because we all feel the way that we do about him now. You see loads of people in the chat, all saying the same thing. We all feel very, very similar. It's gone past the point of wanting him to stay now. I don't think anybody wants him to stay. We all acknowledge he's a world-class striker, and we all know that. And that's why Liverpool, have seemingly been so keen to get him, but he's gone about it all the wrong way. And he's tainted his time on Tyneside for me. And I will not be upset to see the back of him. But then on the other hand, I do think, make him stay, make him come in and do his job that he's being paid for, and then sell him when you want to sell him. So I'm very like that over it. I think when he goes, I'll be celebrating, which I never thought I would. I'll be celebrating when he goes, but I just want to ensure that he goes for the right price. He goes for the price that we say. I've even found myself today, boys, saying to the lads, so it's got to be minimum 130. Minimum 130. And they're already saying to me, oh, so you're lowering the price already. And then I'm like, what am I doing? But it's because I want him gone. I don't want him here. I don't want him here. But that's what all this was trying to set out to achieve. When Newcastle ends up approaching Liverpool, going, "Oh, would you like to buy Alexander?" And that's not what we want to do. I don't know. What do you think, Pete? What do you think,
Chris? We're okay. We're okay to change our mind on it because we're fans, and you're right. We want this saga done with because it's ruined our pre-season. It's ruined our summer. This is why I asked the question about the transfer window, because that's become second nature now to Alexander Isak, and it's gone under the radar, the fact that we have signed players, which is why I asked you boys the question earlier, because I actually think the window hasn't been that bad. Yeah, we've had rejections, but we've signed players of good quality that we needed for the squad this season. But Alexander Isak has completely ruined what should have been a real positive summer and positivity going into the season, with Ramsdale, Alanga, and Malik Chow in the building, with Isak head down training pre-season under his belt. This would be a completely different outlook going into Aston Villa this Saturday. So he's single-handedly created, and I don't agree. Now, I kind of had this initially when it all happened with Celtic and the tour. The agents got in his mind, blah blah blah. Nah. Not anymore. This is down to Alexander Isak because he's 25 years old. And if he didn't want this to happen, he could have stopped this at any point. He could have stopped this and said, nah, I don't think we should be doing this. I want you to do this. He can instruct his agent to do that. He's in charge of his own destiny. He's made
pays
him. And he pays him. He's made his bed. He has to lie in it. I'm the same, Chris. I'm kind of like, I'm torn because I want this saga done with. I want it over, and I want us to be able to just move on. But at the same time, I don't want him getting away with this. I do not want Alexander Isak getting away with this. And to be fair, I said it to Jay Botherwood on Sky, and he came back and was trying to protect the player a little bit and saying, oh, this, that, and the other to kind of create that argument. No chance. He's acting like he's bigger than Newcastle United. Nobody's bigger than Newcastle United at all. And it should never, ever be the case that anyone ever is. And he's acted like that this summer because he's tried to overshadow the club. And that's not acceptable. And you know what? I love the fact that the owners have stepped in and gone, not having it. Not having it. You leave when we tell you to leave. Because you've got a contract for 3 years at Newcastle United. Why has that gone missing in all of this conversation with Ornstein and Fab and all these people? They want to talk about, oh, he's unhappy, wants to leave, and all this rubbish. What about the fact that he signed a 6-year deal 3 years ago to stay at Newcastle United? What about the fact that he's still got 3 years left on that deal to run? Nobody's talking about that. Why? It's because it's all Liverpool heavy led. It's all Liverpool heavy led. They just want the big news and the big scoops and the big talk that Isak's gone to Liverpool, and they want all the money that they're going to earn off the back of that. They're not considering Newcastle United in this. So why should we consider Alexander Isak? Why should we consider Liverpool in all of this? Because we're Newcastle United. We're not just going to let him go for nothing or for cheap and it's all okay. I want him to stay, not because I want him to stay because I want the player to be there. I don't. I want him gone. But I want him to stay because I want Newcastle United. And I said this the other day, and I mean everything that I say. Newcastle United, I want them to send a message to every other club out there, in particular those big clubs that think that they can come and just cherry pick our players. Ain't going to work. It's not going to work like that. You're not just going to come in and take a player and think that you can do Billy Big Bollocks and override it. We're looking to be a big club ourselves. We're looking to be a team that's challenging on those levels. We're not just going to do, and I said it on Sai's channel, what Man United did years ago with Andy Cole, Dwight York, and all those other players where they just went into a club that was smaller than them and go, yeah, we want them, we'll take them. Nah, don't work like that anymore. And our owners absolutely are standing their ground right now and going, no, you're not leaving because we don't want you to leave. And if you are going to leave, you're going to go at our price on our time. And that's how it should be. Absolutely. So I actually want us to see. It's weird because I want him gone.
Yeah, it's weird.
I want us to see this through. I
Yeah,
want
I
us
know.
to see this through, and I want is what I want to do. I want to put this theory to the test. Is he really going to sit there for a whole season and refuse to play? World Cup season, miss out on a Champions League campaign, something which he still hasn't turned up in, by the way. He scored 1 goal in our last Champions League campaign. He's still not proven on the top elite level yet. So we still got. Is he gonna sit out this Champions League campaign where he's got to put himself on the pedestal as one of the best strikers in the world? Because that's where you do it. You don't just do it in the Premier League. You do it in the Champions League. Is he going to let that run? Is he just going to sit there and refuse to play? Not a chance. Is he going to do that? But I'm willing to put that theory to the test, and I bet Newcastle owners are willing to put that theory to the test. This is why it's so important that we get our other striker in right now, because we get our other striker in and we go with that guy for the next 2 or 3 days. We're in a good position. We don't need Alexander Isak at this point if we get our striker in that can take us through the early part of the season. And then let's put that theory to the test. Is that agent still going to be throwing out a load of rubbish through David Ornstein and Fab? Or is he actually going to go, you know what, we need to sit around the table now and we need to thrash out a deal? And you know what it's going to do, lads? It's going to make Alexander Isak look even more like an idiot. The fact that he's doubled down and tripled down on all of this and gone through all of the ways to get out of a club that he could have possibly gone through and still ended up at the club. And he's going to have to walk with his head down back into that training ground. Because I tell you now, I don't know this for sure, but I'm making a pretty good guess here. These players are pissed off with Alexander Isak. Yeah. They're pissed off that he's ruined their pre-season. They're pissed off that he's ruined their potential start to the season. And actually, I think they're looking at him thinking he's a bit of an idiot by how he's behaved. And I tell you what, there was a Scouse guy, a Liverpool fan called Scouse something in the chat that was mentioning it. And he even said, and there's been so many Liverpool fans, nice to see actually for a change, Liverpool fans turning around and going, yeah, I didn't think he'd act like this. He's gone a bit too far. Even Liverpool fans are saying it. Other clubs, Man United, Tottenham, Brentford, Brighton, all these other fans are going, he's acting like an idiot now. This is not on Newcastle United anymore. Newcastle United are okay. This is all on him. Everything is now being viewed at Alexander Isak and how he's behaving. This has gone way beyond Newcastle United. Newcastle United are sitting pretty right now. And what was really interesting, and I want to bring this up, is David Ornstein clarified his points today in a recent podcast. In fact, a recent podcast, it was done today. And David Ornstein says the story we reported on in The Athletic is extremely well, thoroughly sourced from multiple contacts privy to the situation, and there is an awareness of the perspective of Alexander Isak. He does not intend to play for Newcastle United again. Yada, yada, yada. Even if the deal is not done, he's still at Newcastle United. He has no desire to reintegrate, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Rambling on with all of this stuff. But what they didn't put in that is that David Ornstein also said Newcastle United are in control. That is what David Ornstein said tonight, and that's not what's been put out. You haven't seen Liverpool accounts throwing that out there in the media today. You haven't seen nobody else put that in the media today. But David Ornstein, after all of that he said that Newcastle United are in control of the situation, something that hasn't been said all summer. So I believe that Newcastle United have the narrative back. We are now in control of this situation. We decide what happens next, not Liverpool, nor does the player. And you know what? Hold him to ransom. Make him sweat. Make him sit here for another season and play for Newcastle United, whether he wants to or not, because he has damaged his career. He has damaged his reputation, and also he's damaged our pre-season. And that shouldn't be able to be let gone lightly, in my opinion, on all of that. So that's where I stand with the situation.
I wanted to get on one point as well, but I'll pick up on where you left off there, Pete. Just like, what kind of an Alexander Isak would we get in that situation is just something to think about first. But I'm going to link back to what you said, Chris, and I agree with you. There was like a death when that news broke, because I was on holidays that time, and it ruined my holiday, because even though you have a good holiday, but that's all you're thinking about as well, of that going on in the background. It's definitely ruined the start of the season for me. In a Champions League season and everything like that, you'd be building up the hype. But this saga continuing on and not knowing who's going to be scoring the goals for us, really, who's leading the line going into this season. And then if we're what kind of an Isak do we get? Then he has to get some game time as well. If he does eventually put on a black and white jersey again, which I still don't think it'll happen. But with Villa, Liverpool, Leeds, Wolves, and then it's a Champions League game. Is the next. So there's not an awful lot of time as well to get his way back into the team if that's what was to happen. For me, lads, I think I want him gone. But and I know it's probably it's as the days go by, it's unlikely. But also the Samu thing, and I know we're going to get onto it. But that's what I bring in, and I know he's kissing the badge and saying he's staying here. But I'd push the boat out to get him in and make him our number 9 with Isak gone. With Isak sold, not to Liverpool, to somewhere else.
Just to touch, Daz, on what you said, when you said, about you can't see him staying, or you can't see him pulling on the jersey again. It's funny because that I look at that scenario and I think similar. I can't imagine him playing for Newcastle again. And I've just seen Aaron's comment there. Aaron Cave, he says the only way this is salvageable is if he does an interview with the club and explains stuff. His agent's 100% been pushing this. I don't think it's much on the player side. It's all media driven. Now, I do think Alexander Isak has a huge part to play in this. I think there's major bridges that would need building and mending. I saw a article from Gary Neville earlier today, and Gary Neville, I know he's a bit Marmite, Gary Neville, isn't he? But sometimes he just
there it is.
Oh, there you go, Pete. There you go. Can I read this out, Pete? Do you mind?
Go for it.
So, Newcastle must keep Alexander Isak. Sky Sports has Gary Neville talking about Alexander Isak's situation at Newcastle. Isak should be angry with his agents. It's unsavoury. I feel sorry for Eddie Howe, which is Pete. You said that the other day. Isak wants to win trophies and is agitating for the move because he's got one career. I can see both sides. At 25, he's got 5 or 6 years, good years left. It looks like this guy is down in tools and saying he's not playing, and I don't think it's right. Newcastle have to stand strong here. If you're the club, it sends the wrong message to sell after what has happened. I think they have to keep him for another year because the precedent will be dangerous for Newcastle. And you know what? I read that, and I think this is where the head starts taking over, like the feeling, because I do think to myself, if we get to the 1st of September and we've got a seemingly very unhappy Alexander Isak on our hands, we've also got our pride boys, and we can end up turning around to other players within the team who maybe have thought about doing the same, or maybe are kind of wanting the club to stand strong and go, no, he's not going anywhere, and if anyone else tries it, exactly the same is going to happen to you. By the way, it's not suggesting anyone would do that. But it also sticks 2 fingers up to the big 6, to any clubs who think that they can just come along and just take our players as and when they want. This isn't, and I'm fed up of seeing the same thing online. Look at Visser. Look at the situation with Visser. The situation with Visser is similar, but it's not the same. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and there was a verbal agreement. Alexander Isak, we heard that Alexander Isak, straight after the Carabao Cup final, allegedly said he wanted to leave. We heard that he said on the first day after the season ended that he wanted to leave. Well, why was Alexander Isak pictured in the new strips? Why is Alexander Isak, plastered everywhere in the Newcastle club shop, etc.? If Newcastle knew that he wanted to leave, that wouldn't be very wise. It really wouldn't. And I just think I just think that the longer this goes on, the more that I believe that there's probably a good chance that he stays. And as much and do you know what, boys? I'll finish on this part and pass back to you. I actually feel quite pleased that Newcastle handled it the way they have and Eddie Howe's handled it the way they have, because for me now, it's a no lose for Newcastle. Because if we keep Alexander Isak, we basically turn around to everyone and go, didn't pan out how you all expected, did it? And, you know, he didn't go anywhere like you all said he would. But if we do sell Alexander Isak, as long as we sell him for the right price, we're going to be content and comfortable knowing we've got rid of him. He's gone. We didn't want him anyway. He's gone. The narrative has turned. It's gone from, we don't want to let him go, he's ours, you can't take him, to now, fucking have him. Have him.
This is why go on, Daz, go on.
No, so for that to for him to come back and play for Newcastle, I would think, and I cannot see this happening, he would have to sit down in front of the media verbally, not a statement that's useless, because I could write that for him. He needs to speak to the camera and communicate to the fans.
I think he's got to.
Pretty much like medieval times in the stocks, throwing tomatoes at him. That's pretty much the same thing as that. Because that's I cannot see him doing that. From the statements that have come out, do you think he'll do it?
No.
I think he's got to. I think he's got to. And the reason I say that is because there's still. Let's not forget, boys. Let's not forget. There has not been one statement, one quote from Alexander Isak's. I was going to say something bad there. From Alexander Isak's mouth that he wants to leave. And this is where I think there's an opportunity. And this is why I think he's been very fucking clever, because nobody has quoted them. This has all been media driven. This has all been, Alexander Isak wants this. Alexander Isak thinks this. Alexander Isak does this. There hasn't been one quote or one interview or anything. He's literally hid.
Come on, lads. Come on. Like, look, you got to look at this situation. Like, you know what? I get what you're saying, because a few people have said it. Like Liam said it last night in his videos. I watched it as well, and I get what you're saying in all of this. If this was over a course of a few days or a week, I would understand that point. But he hasn't actually said it.
Oh no, Pete. By the way, just to clarify, I am not saying. I'm not saying. What I mean is, sorry, I need to clarify what I meant. I'm not saying that this has all been a bad dream and it wasn't true. But what I mean is, because he hasn't stuck his fork in the sand, and there's quotes, and because if he came out and did an interview and they go, yeah, but mate, you said on camera like a week ago that you definitely wanted to leave. I'm just saying, I believe there is an opportunity for him. Yeah, there's an opportunity for him to go. Oh, there's been a lot of speculation. And let's be honest, boys, actions speak louder than words. It's all fucking true. It's fucking true.
It's not believable, Pete.
He hasn't said
it.
We as a three, and everyone that watches this channel on a regular basis, we see through the bullshit. Yeah. Because we've been covering this every step of the way. Like, there may be people that might not have been covering it, opposition fans, all the rest of it, that might go, okay, fair enough, move on. Nah, not for us. You can't use the agent as an excuse when this has been going on for over a month and will continue to go on for another 2 or 3 weeks on the back of this. At some point, it has to be that he is driving this, because he is allowing this to happen. He could have stopped this at any point if he really wanted to. So Newcastle fans will know that this is him. This is what he wants. This is what he wants to do. And this is the thing. Like, it doesn't matter whether he hasn't officially said anything or not. He thinks he's protecting himself. But the reality is Newcastle United fans see through that bullshit, and they know that it's come from him, and they know that he doesn't want to be at the club, and they know that he has manufactured all of these things to ruin our pre-season, to ruin the players' pre-season, and he's dragged us fans through the mud in the whole of this saga. It all falls on him. And this is what I was saying to you, Daz, is that I get what you're saying, Daz. You don't want him at the club. None of us do. I don't. Chris doesn't. No, everyone in the chat is already saying, I don't want him back at the club. I want to go. We all want him gone. But at the same time, I don't want our club being seen as a bit of a laughing stock, which is where we were early on 2 or 3 weeks ago. I want us to come back and hit back hard. I want us to see this through. And you know what? There's a part of me that wants to see Alexander Isak have to step foot back on the pitch. I want to see Alexander Isak. I want to know that, Chris, you said you would love to be there to see it. Well, I want to see it. I want to see him step back on the pitch and get the wrath of the Newcastle United fans at St. James's Park. I want to see Alexander Isak feel the wrath of Newcastle United fans, to let him know that what he did for this whole summer isn't acceptable. It isn't acceptable, and we're not going to accept it. We're the fans that backed him when we didn't need to back him. We're the club that signed him when he had 6 goals in the whole of that season for Real Sociedad. We signed him and paid 63 million when he scored 6 goals that season. Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, all those teams didn't even give him a sniff, didn't want him, weren't interested, couldn't give a crap about him, right? It wasn't even on any of their agendas. We put the punt in there and we gave him an opportunity. Eddie Howe's nurtured him to be one of the best strikers in the world. And then he goes and does that to his manager, to his friends, to his teammates, to his fans. I want to see him. I want to see him kind of look and experience that reaction, because players need to understand. They need to understand that this type of behavior isn't acceptable. We understand that he wants to leave. That's fine. It goes back to the original point we said weeks ago. There's a good way and a bad way to do it. And he has gone not just the bad way, he's got the real shitty way of having to try and force his way out of the club. And I want that to fail. I want that to fail. And I said it to Jay Brockmore in my last point on Sky at the time. And I said, I don't want Newcastle United to create a pathway for Sandro Tonali, for Bruno Guimaraes, for Sven Botman to think this is the way we need to leave Newcastle United. And I don't want us next summer, 2026, to have this same saga again with another player that thinks he can just refuse to go on the tour. He can just kick up a fuss and throw his toys out the pram and he's going to get his move. No, we need to end this now. And if it means that we have to suffer with an Alexander Isak slumping and grumpy and mardy and not getting his move the way he wants for another season, so be it. Because it sends a message that no player is going to get that from Newcastle United. And to be honest, I'll be honest with you, lads, I think very, very quickly he'll get his head down. Very, very quickly. Get himself back into the game, and very, very quickly he'll want to try and score goals for Newcastle United. But I don't want us to make it easier. Whoever the striker is that comes through the door, whether it's Johan Wieser or someone else, I want him for a period of time, a significant period of time, to be our number one. I don't want Alexander Isak to think, oh, well, I'm the main man. I'm okay now. I've said sorry. I've made up. I'm back in starting for Newcastle United. No, he needs to be riding bench. He needs to be getting 10 or 15 minutes a game to prove himself, and he needs to be putting goals into the net like nobody's business this season. I want him scoring goals ridiculously to make it impossible to keep him out of the team, for him to earn his way back in. That's what he needs to do if he stays at Newcastle United. It's a win-win for me. My final point. It's a win-win for me, which is what you talked about, Chris. We have him, and we have stood our ground. We've held back all the noise, all the rubbish from Liverpool, all the media, and we've kept to our grounds, and we keep the player. Or we stick to our grounds, we've stood our ground, we've said what we wanted, 150 million, and that gets paid to us, and then he goes. Win-win either way. You get the 150 million.
I've got 2 questions. Sorry, Pete. Sorry, I thought you finished.
And I've got one point as well.
Go on, Daz.
Can I just go with one point, because it's linked to what Pete described there. What you described there, Pete, I agree with what you're saying. We don't want to set the precedent for other players to do similar. And what you described there, from the shitty situation we're in now to a kind of utopia version of events. What if it doesn't go that way? What if we have, remember Anthony Gordon and the whole situation last year? What if he truly isn't Mr. Iceman, and his mental state is fucked going into the season, because he's only one man at the end of the day, and he's got to, if he can't get back, get his head to be the player that we know he can be, and he's only half the player we're screwed as well in that situation. So that's my worry, that's what we're left with. And I know, still play it on. He's a shit season. We have another striker there, or maybe two strikers there that can fill in, and then he still has 2 years left in his contract, and we can sell him in the summer. We've shown our hand. We've shown that we're strong. We're not going to be pushed about, but. And at the same time, we still get our sale and we cash out on them and move on and have an adequate replacement coming in. But
absolutely, he's proven his value. He's proven his value. He's already done 2 years back to back of scoring 20 plus goals. He's already proven his value. So regardless of what happens this season, we can still hold our value and demand way over 100 million for him, even with 2 years left on his contract. Let's not forget, Coutinho, I think, went in the January to Barcelona.
Suarez went the next year.
There you go. So there's no reason why he still can't go in January and we get a massive fee off the back of that. There's no reason why. But someone to put in the chat, and this is what I was going to say anyway, is that if he's not the same player and he hasn't come back with that attitude to go, right, I'm going to get my head down and play, he sits on the bench. His value, his value doesn't plummet, but his reputation does, because people will look at that and they won't be able to trust that. He's already proven that his reputation's took an absolute battering this summer through his own doing. There are clubs and people in high positions that will be looking at that and going, not sure that's the kind of player that I want around us. Players will be looking at that and thinking, is he a little bit petulant? Are we going to have to deal with that in the locker room at Liverpool if he signs for us? If he doesn't get his own way, is this who we're having to deal with? Like that's going to be genuine questions that are going out there. That's not out there in the domain of social media that people are talking about. He's got to earn his way back in. He's not going to be the one that everyone's talking about if he's riding bench and he's getting 10 or 15 minutes here and there. I would much love Johan Wieser or whoever we sign as Samu, for example, to be the main guy, and that's our go-to guy. He's our number one. If you want to displace him, put the ball in the net, put good performances in, show us that you want to be number one at Newcastle United. That should be the aim. And if he's not, let him sit on the bench. Let him sit on the bench for 6 months to a season. That's fine. It may be a hit on Newcastle United, but in the long run, it sends a deeper message. And actually, it has a long-term effect in a positive way on Newcastle United. I think most Newcastle United fans would want to see that come to fruition, in terms of we're not going to be messed around here. We're not just going to be pushed over. That's what needs to be the message. So it's either they pay the 150 million, which is our value, or he stays with us. We win either way, lads. We win either way. Now, for the first time this summer, we hold the cards. We're back in control of this whole situation. We decide what happens next. And that's how it needs to stay.
Just last point, right? For him to stay at Newcastle and to play for Newcastle again, can you see any kind of him coming on camera and making any kind of a statement to the fans, or he'll just rock up on back in training, he'll ride the bench and he'll come on as a sub and he'll start? Any kind of, because it can't be Eddie again.
No. For me, 100%, he has to make a statement. It's got that bad. It's got that bad. For me, he's got to be stuck in front of a camera and he's got to say, "I've ballsed up here. I've ballsed up." And what he's got to do is he's got to admit and say, "I had my head turned. I wanted to leave. That wasn't possible. Now I'm fully committed to Newcastle. I regret what I did, and I'm going to get my head down. And I want it." Because, like you boys were saying then, he cannot, once the 1st of September comes, if he's still here, he cannot just down tools or go, no, I'm not bothered now. Because, you don't get to the very top in the game. You don't get to the very top level like he's at now without having that drive, that determination. And let's be honest, boys, if he wants to leave, if he's got ambitions of moving on and, doesn't want to be at Newcastle anymore, but wants to move to a really big club, it's almost like he's pressing the reset button. He's got to start from the bottom again to get people interested in him, so that when January comes, when next summer comes, people are going, fucking hell, right, we need a new striker. Oh yeah, I scored 30 goals. Oh, it's Isak though, isn't it? No, but look at the season he's had. He got his head down. He got on with it. Yeah, do you know what? I'll take a risk on him. Or people get to next summer and go, right, need a new striker, who are we looking for? Oh, Isak, yeah, he's available for 100 mil now. Yeah, but he's been shit all season. Do you know what? He can just stay where he is. That's the reality. He's got to get his head back in the zone, and it's going to be good for Newcastle United. It's going to be good for the fan base. It's going to be good for him personally, and it's also going to be good for his prospects in terms of getting a new move. He cannot, like Pete suggested, he cannot ride that bench for too long. He can't. He's got to force his way back into the reckoning, and the only way he's going to force his way back into the reckoning is by improving his behaviour, and when he comes on, making a difference. Because otherwise, you know, he's going to be playing in the third and fourth round of the cup, you know, away to Tranmere or something, because they're the only opportunities that he's going to be given. Because if he's not demonstrating correctly that, you know, he deserves to be in this team, he won't start. He just won't start. He'll just be on the bench, and he'll come on now and again, and he'll sulk, and he can't risk getting to January or next summer. He cannot risk doing that, because I tell you, the likes of Liverpool will not fancy it. They really won't. And we've already heard, boys, and we've spoken about this previously. We've already heard the rumours about, you know, what happens with Ekitike. Is Ekitike's nose going to be put out of joint? You probably saw, boys, if you watched the Community Shield, Ekitike was the forefront. And I tell you what, what I noticed massively. I don't know if you boys noticed it. Where was Mo Salah? Where was Mo Salah? Because it was all about Wirtz. It was all about Ekitike. And if Alexander Isak joins that Liverpool team, Ekitike, then he's going to be riding the bench. He's going to be in the background. And I wonder whether that's what's in the back of Liverpool's minds, and they're thinking to themselves, hang on a minute, do we really want to upset, you know, Hugo Ekitike? Hugo Ekitike is burst on the scene. He's done very, very well, as we predicted, because we wanted him. And I wonder as well whether Alexander Isak's looking at that and thinking, this isn't ideal. This isn't good. And maybe Alexander Isak's looking and thinking, maybe it's a Barcelona, maybe it's a Real Madrid. Well, if it is a Barcelona or it is a Real Madrid, you're going to have a record-breaking season, mate, to get them interested in you. And you're going to have to put all this shenanigans to one side and prove that you can get your head down and that you can do the business. Because if you can't, I'm going anywhere.
I don't think Isak's worried about going to Liverpool and taking people's noses out of place. I think he knows he will go in and be number one. I think that will be his mindset.
But a Liverpool worries.
With what Liverpool, with regards to Liverpool, I think Liverpool are maybe looking at this and going, "We've just made this guy our poster boy and Hugo Ekitike. We can't then just stick him on the bench because he'll be absolutely backup to Alexander Isak." And I think they're worried about, you know, you spend 90 million on a player and he becomes backup, you're going to get frustrated. And let's be honest, like Ekitike is a temperamental character.
He's got a history of being petulant, Pete.
He's got it in himself. And are they wanting to create a narrative? Is this why they've kind of stepped back and gone, okay, we'll come to you only if you come to us, kind of thing? Because they don't want to make out like they're going for him, all out for him, to make it look like that they want him to come in and replace Hugo Ekitike. Is that why Liverpool doing it? Is that respectful nature? Are they thinking strategically about their own players? I don't know. I could be wrong, but look, the whole thing around Alexander Isak has got to the point where lots of people have got their opinions on it. There's lots of people that have had their opinions on it. Gabriel Bonlahor, I never thought I'd agree with anything that he said, but his piece on TalkSport was absolutely spot on, and it has a statement there. Who does he think he is? You know, it's disgusting. He's absolutely right. You know, and regardless of all those comments, different people, Pardew, Luke Edwards, you know, Ali McCoist, had their opinions, but it's Carragher's opinion that I think is important, because he is a Liverpool fan. He's an ex-player. And he says, I don't think you should ever go toxic or nuclear when you refuse to play or train. That's a Liverpool legend giving that opinion on that situation. He's of the opinion that Liverpool shouldn't be paying 150 million for Isak. They shouldn't be, not when they've spent all that money on Hugo Ekitike. So there's people within the game that I think are now starting to sit back and look at this and going, maybe this has been handled not very good at all by Liverpool or by Alexander Isak. And that's what I say. Newcastle are up right now. People are not looking down at Newcastle United thinking, oh, you've handled this situation. I think Newcastle United have handled this situation excellently well. Now all the dust is settled on what happened initially. I think Newcastle United have handled this situation really, really well. Eddie Howe, of course, handled this situation excellently. And they need to see it through. With what, 2 or 3 weeks left to go, they need to see this through. They need to stick to their guns, 150 million, or he stays at Newcastle United. It has to be stuck to that. It has to stick to that for them to see this through properly. But as you mentioned, Daz, really quickly, Jordan Cronin and Liam Kennedy did report that he is training on his own still and not with the players. He won't be playing against Aston Villa. That's a situation that we're in.
And he obviously can't play against Liverpool either.
Well,
no matter what.
He could,
yeah,
but I don't see it won't happen. So
that's more in that dream scenario that you talked about, that he comes out and he scores a hat-trick against Liverpool. But no.
It ain't happening. It ain't happening. I don't think Newcastle United will want that against Liverpool either, because the negative reaction that Isak will get against Liverpool, it's not what we need when we're trying to beat Liverpool at St. James's Park. You're not going to want Isak to be on the pitch against Liverpool when you're trying to beat them, because all the scrutiny is going to be out there. You'd rather him not play at all. So for me, I don't think we see him until maybe Leeds away, maybe even after that.
Not even at the game.
In fact, we ain't going to see him for the rest of this window. Until the window's done, we're not going to see Alexander Isak put on a shirt for Newcastle United unless there's a dramatic turnaround. At that point, people, take a deep breath. We spent a long time covering Isak.
That's good to talk it out, though, as well, isn't it? It's good to talk.
It is. And even better when you hit those likes, people. Get those likes. So we've got, 550 in the chat talking about all things Newcastle United. Lots of great points in the chat, as well as the discussions on the screen as well. One to cross off the list